Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, theys, thems, Apache
Nope.
helicopters, whatever you want to call
Basketballs,
yourself.
footballs,
We got to be
baseballs.
PC in 2023.
No,
Welcome
we don't.
in. This is episode 20. We've already done 20 of these freaking things of
Wow.
going the JC route. I'm JC. That's the Birdman. Our good
Er,
friend Aiden, our third wheel, is out again. He'll be back next week. Fingers crossed. But we missed last week. Sorry, we had some Valentine's Day things going on. I'm sure people
no, we
can
didn't.
appreciate that. Well, personal things. Shut up. My loneliness was felt. Uh, it was very much felt on on Valentine's Day.
In
But
your feels?
regardless, we're here. There has been an obscene amount of sports happen behind the scenes, not
A
necessarily
lot. A lot.
on the court slash field, whatever it is. The Super Bowl happened. We missed that.
Yes. Yes.
God's team won in that situation. Nobody likes the Eagles.
Nope, nobody does.
Well, so hear me out, okay? If I'm being completely honest, I did not care who won that game. I really didn't care until
Um,
Dak, our Lord and Savior Dak Prescott, walked out there pregame to receive the
Savior.
Walter Payton Award. And all those damn Eagles fans booed him for winning a community service award. From that moment on, it was destined to be Chiefs world champions. And in fact, that happened. Thank you.
Um, I, I mean, I'd root against the Eagles if they were playing what, Al Qaeda. Um, like
Who
I was
wouldn't?
gonna root for the Chiefs. Yeah, honestly, like I was gonna root against them either, anyways. But like you gotta give them the respect that they deserve. I think they played a fantastic game. I mean, that was the first half was completely them. I mean, that was just, um, it wasn't so much dominance, but I mean, they controlled that game for that entire first half. And but you saw just how good and how willing Mahomes is to want to go win a game, and they did what they had to do. I didn't like that it ended the way it did with the penalty, but that was a fantastic game. I think they should have the Super Bowl in Arizona every year because it feels like every time that they go to Arizona, there's a great Super Bowl that happens.
I've got a couple notes on what you said. First of all, they gave Pat Mahomes the good drugs at halftime. Let me tell you. If I would have been given that stuff, I'd be feeling good to this day. 2.5 weeks afterwards. Um, Second of all, um, I didn't have a problem with the flag. It was a right call. I mean, he hooked him twice with with his right arm, and he hooked him again with his left hand. It was holding. It like, do I wish it would have not happened from on my end because it would have enhanced my viewing pleasure? Absolutely. Because in the
Yeah,
reality, if they don't get that play, they kick a field goal, and
and
Eagles
then
get
you got
a minute and a half, 2 minutes to have a drive. Um, but it was the right call, absolutely. So I wasn't too mad about it. But to that credit, the Chiefs showed exactly why they were meant to win the Super Bowl, right? Like after that, they
hmm
go down there and have complete awareness. The Eagles were going to let
hmm
was it McKinnon? I believe it was McKinnon.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that
fully
was
going
a
to let him
great
score, and
great
McKinnon had the awareness to get down.
the football intelligence and the IQ to just be able to do that because like in that moment like you're just running and it's in the Super Bowl you want to score the
Mhm.
chance to be able to score in the Super Bowl is so intriguing but just the intelligence to want to get the ring over having your own
Your stats get
uh
get
yeah
padded.
your stats inflated Like that was unselfishness.
And let me
That,
tell
that
you,
was unselfishness and super intelligent.
let me tell you this. The Cowboys would have found a way to fuck that up.
Oh my gosh.
uh,
Yeah.
it's just
they would have
in their nature to.
They wouldn't have gone on a knee to or gone out of bounds to stop that play. They would have fumbled the ball before they got even had a chance to go into the end zone, or
And
Dak would have thrown an interception on the last play, or there would have been like a strip sack or something.
he would have got Dak would have got Malcolm Brown, and I would have cried. Yeah. But one last thing from the Super Bowl that I find hilariously relevant. There's been a lot of circulation going around of players complaining about the surface, like the grass. And do you know the story behind the grass?
I don't.
So it was a specially bred like species of grass made specifically for the Super Bowl. The NFL spent $900,000 on the grass over the course of like 2 years, and the surface sucked. It was like especially bred grass that's supposed to be like legit grass, but it's the turf, the texture of
turf,
like turf, essentially.
AstroTurf, yeah,
right. And guess who produced it?
I don't know.
None other than the researchers of Oklahoma State University. Those dang.
I do remember seeing something like
those dang pokes ruined the Super Bowl.
I think it is safe to say that they would never use that spend that much money on or whatever the company. They would never use that company ever again.
Well, I just thought it was absolutely hilarious how everybody going into the game, like researchers, the NFL, all this stuff, were doing all these interviews about how great the surface is supposed to be, how great this compound is supposed to do, all this different things. And it just did nothing of what they talked about. I will say, I thought it was straight baller for Jalen Hurts to rock out in one pair of J's, Jordan, and then switch to the ones like in the first quarter. I'm just like, man,
yeah,
like straight gangster shit. And he still lost. I'm upset. To be fair though, Jalen Hurts probably played as well as anybody in that game, and probably could have won.
I think there's
if it
been
wasn't
a lot of
one fumble, he probably could have won MVP even if they did lose.
Mm-hmm. I think I think there was still a lot of talk about whether or not he was a decent quarterback with the Eagles. I mean he proved that he can, even in the biggest game of them all, that he can still play as as good as you can. And I mean he showed that even in losing that he was one of the best players on that field.
And it kind of is really interesting that it played out that the two favorites for the MVP this year were the two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. And if it was, I mean, that was the thing. If it wasn't for the injury that kept Jalen Hurts out a few weeks, he probably would have won the MVP.
Yeah, and here's the other thing with that. The Eagles, I think, are just getting started. They had incredible trades, incredible free agent signings, incredible
did you
draft,
happen to see?
And they're just getting started. I think that they are going to get. They are going to probably win another Super Bowl.
Did you happen to see that the graphic that showed like how both teams' rosters were built? It's out there, and it was like Kansas City. Theirs was like 75% free agent signings and trades, whereas the Eagles roster was like, I want to say almost 90% draft. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, but that's not primarily the entire thing because they, uh, especially over the last couple of years, the Cowboys have been fairly decent at drafting. They just can't get free agents.
they've been good at drafting for a long
or
time.
trading.
They've been really good at drafting for a long time. It's about developing players. Well, and they do that, but it's like finding
They
good
fall in
trades,
love with the play.
but also
They find it. They fall.
we haven't had good enough leadership to win the Super Bowl in a long time.
That's the case too, but I also think that they tend to fall in love with the players that they get, even if they aren't up to the level that other people see them as. Like, or actually, I think they see him at some people, or sometimes the whoever the people running the team see him at a different level than what other people see him, and then they sign him to contracts that end up kicking him in the rear end.
It's just a mess, and the Cowboys will continue to be a mess until Mr. Jerry Jones does something one way or another. But
with that,
I think we can. So I think we can close the book on this NFL season because we've got a more exciting form of football to watch now. The good old XFL, Dwayne Johnson's love child. And our hometown team, the Renegades, won this weekend, even though their offense is atrocious.
Yes,
Drew Plitt is not great. Drew Plitt is not the answer. Who the hell is
and
that?
I think they play one of the best. Who did they play this week? They play Houston.
They play Vegas Vipers.
I think they play Houston.
Wait, you're talking about this coming weekend?
Yeah.
So they just played Vegas, and their offense had dudes on it.
Yeah, they were good early, and then couldn't score afterwards.
Well, to be fair,
I think
both teams had really, really good defense. I want to say Vegas even had the better offense. The problem is they turned the ball over. Think about it this way, right? I want to say, did the Renegades have an offensive touchdown? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they had 3 field goals and 2 pick sixes. They did.
I do remember the turnover,
they legitimately had
turnovers.
3 field goals and 2 pick
did they have like back-to-back pick sixes?
They were both in the second half. I know that. They're pretty tight together.
But I mean, it was just a lot of fun. I didn't get to watch all the games because
I'll tell you what. I think it was the St. Louis game where they were down like 16 with like a couple minutes left, and they did they scored the touchdown, got the 3-point conversion, then did the 4th and 15 onside kick conversion, went down and did another touchdown, and won the game. And I was like, holy shit. This is fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun, including like not just that, but did you see the DC Seattle game?
No, I didn't watch it too much, but I heard that game was really fun.
The crowd was wild.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't like Seattle came out, and I can't remember who's Seattle's quarterback. Oh, you know who's Seattle's quarterback?
Ben DiNucci.
It is. Ben DiNucci came. He started off really good. I think they ended up having 2 touchdowns early, and then the crowd just started going absolutely insane.
Did you hear the story about the crowd?
Yeah, the beer snake. It trended on Twitter.
They took away the beer snake and they rioted.
Yeah. Yes, they started throwing lemons on the field. They started chanting beer snake. They threw more lemons. It was like I said, it trended on Twitter.
That's
like
here's the
that's
thing.
A lot of fun.
And so here's my opinion on it. I think if the XFL leans into being that spectacle league, that fun league, like the WWE is kind of.
Yeah.
where it's like it's entertaining. It's still good product. Like I think overall this
Yeah.
weekend, the product was really, really good.
Oh, it was a
What
lot
it
of fun to watch.
for what it is. And I know a lot of them want to be that kind of developmental league for the NFL, which I mean they've got a lot of NFL guys on rosters, right? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
the Vegas
Well,
Vipers
but
we
so
played this
does
weekend had Martavis Bryant, who was on the
yeah.
Steelers roster for years,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, you look at like the minor leagues in baseball. How many former really good players playing the have minor league deals now? So
Mhm.
it kind of I like the idea because and not just the XFL but the USFL as well. But like they're both really nice for players to get noticed. PJ Walker,
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney. I don't think he played in the XFL, but you have those
No,
guys that just
like PJ Walker, Kevontae Turpin, people like that.
I don't know why I said Kadarius Toney. That was
And here's what I'm saying though. I think well, I was like, what are you doing? But I think where its niche is if it focuses
it
on
was the
being the
KT that
entertainment
messed me up.
league, because there's things that there's things in this league that the NFL will never adopt, right? They're not
Mhm.
going to adopt this 3-point conversion. They're never going to
No,
adopt doing a 4th and
4th and
15
15 on
over an onside kick.
no.
But it's a fun concept and it's fun to watch. But we have to
Yeah,
understand, hey, the NFL is never going to go for this. So I think if the XFL leans into being that entertainment league, they'll do pretty good for themselves
and
moving
it's
forward.
still the same. I mean, besides those two concepts, I mean, everything else is just the
I mean, it's
same.
still
So I
football.
mean, you
Well, and then
still.
they've got the running clock too, so it's quicker.
Oh, I didn't notice the running clock.
So the way they explained it when I was watching it, and it's if you run out of bounds, the clock stops like normal. But like everything else, like first downs, the clock runs, incomplete passes, the clock runs,
Oh,
things like that. So
okay.
it's a little bit of a quicker game. So I
Okay.
think that really makes it fun. Now it's really perspective on it because the NFL is like the peak product of football in the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so you can tell in this league the quality isn't that.
No.
Like I was saying, Drew Plitt is not the answer. He is not a good
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
But so is like a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league. They're not great. And that's the thing is you're getting because you have a bunch of either guys fresh out of college or NFL ex NFL players. There's a ton of talent and experience on these teams that you have got to be sharp if you want to be a really, really good team. Like that's what we kind of showed was in the Renegades Vipers game, you saw defenses kind of take over because they were just so solid.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun
Well,
though because they're getting pick sixes and interceptions and stuff, and it's just like it's fun to watch.
yeah. I mean, it is a lot of fun to watch, and
And now I saw something
you know,
that was like between the NFL, the XFL, the USFL, and I think they included college football. There is only there is a football product to watch 50 out of 52 weekends every year now.
how beautiful is that?
It's incredible. It absolutely is incredible.
Like I mean, there's still a couple other things to watch, but watch baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever. But like at the first and foremost, football. We're football guys, so like, if there's a USFL game or an XFL game I'm going to turn on and watch
I'll be honest.
And
I'll be honest. I could not get into USFL last year. I just couldn't do it. The XFL, I think I'll be able to get into it a little bit better.
I think it's easier for me personally to get into the XFL because there's a team situated in the area that I'm at.
For sure.
Arlington's not Dallas, but like it being, within vicinity of me, it's easier for me to get into that. Where the USFL, I think the closest team to us would
Houston,
be,
probably.
I think it's Houston. So, and I don't have anything for Houston. Maybe San Antonio, but like, there's no team that I need to watch.
There's no USFL team in San Antonio.
I can't remember. I know Houston for sure has one. I think New Orleans. Does New Orleans have one?
Because there's Pittsburgh, Michigan, New Jersey, Philadelphia,
Philly. Ugh.
Memphis, Birmingham, New Orleans, and Houston. Yeah. So Houston
Okay.
probably.
So yeah, but like, there's no regional team to really get invested into it. Because like
Speaking of
the
which, the
reason I
USFL had
watched
their
the
draft
Arlington,
today.
the reason I watched the Arlington game was because it was Arlington. I wanted
Oh
to see
shit! What the
Arlington
hell?
win.
Dante Stills went to the USFL. What the hell? So did Jake Bobo. What the shit?
With that being
I'm,
said,
I'm
if
just
it's
now
on,
realizing the results of the USFL
draft,
draft. Like Birmingham drafted Malik Cunningham today.
let's see.
Let's see. The New Jersey Generals drafted Adrian Martinez.
Nice. Tyler Scott, Alfred.
Michigan Panthers got Tanner Morgan. Damn, they drafted Deshaun White too. Okay, interesting. Isaiah Land, that's a good one. That's really interesting. Okay. But that's really fun. Well, and here's the thing. Now we've got the interesting argument of like going to the NFL versus these other products, because now you've got players that may or may not have a high draft grade.
Mm-hmm.
With the NFL draft. Now they're going to go do these other products, but they'll still get released at the end of the season so that they can join try to get on a roster.
Yeah, well, it's a developmental league. I mean, you know, you can have these guys go in, February and March, and show what they're capable of in these leagues, and maybe by June or July they have a contract in their hand that allows them to get on an NFL team, and maybe they can produce and who knows? I mean, who knows what the limit is? I mean, I'm going way back with this one, but like, you even think of like Kurt Warner when he played in the Arena Football League.
Mm-hmm.
You just show up, you show out what you can in those weeks, and you just people are going to watch, even if you think they're not. They're going to watch, and they're going to be like, okay, maybe we want him. You might be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Houston drafted Chase Bryce in the first round.
Chase Bryce?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's absolutely wild.
I mean, what's up?
That's just interesting, but we get the point. I don't want to dig through that forever. It's gonna be fun to watch these things this year. See what the XFL is like in its first season back.
Mm-hmm.
Since they got COVID in 2020, like everything else that year.
I mean, the first week came off like a cannon, and so
I was gonna say the product this past week was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's gonna be interesting to see what the USFL does starting in April or whatever.
Yeah,
go through April into June or something like that. I don't know. So that's gonna be really, really interesting, and I'm interested to see what it does. But that's football, and there's one other football thing we need to talk about because it has happened since we talked last. You know what I'm talking about?
Does it involve the SEC?
It does.
Does it involve involves Texas and OU too.
It does. It does. OU and Texas to the SEC in 2024 has officially become official as of.
How funny would it be?
Pluto.
How funny would it be if next year's Big 12 championship game is between Texas and OU?
I think that's what it has to be, dude. Like,
It would be so much.
just content wise, it would be incredible. But also, it's like, hey, Big 12, it's pretty apparent. Well, see, here's the size of it. From OU and Texas side, that's what you want it to be because you want it to be very, very apparent that, hey, Big 12,
This is
we're your two best teams and you're losing us.
yeah.
Versus if it's not, like it's something random like BYU and freaking Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game this year,
Houston,
then
TCU,
it's like, hey, you guys weren't relevant in the Big 12. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's something random like that, it's like, hey, you guys were not relevant in the Big 12. What do you think you're going to do when you go to the SEC now? You're not going to be relevant again. So,
yeah,
that's where it's like, hey, we've got to show that. Well, and to be fair, Texas has been building to this year anyway. I've said it all along. Like, they need to see steady growth, right? Like, from Sark, they went from 5-7 to 8-5, and now I'm like, hey, if you're taking the next step, you got to win 10 games this year, right? And I think if Texas wins 10 games this year, they'll be ready to go for the SEC. Same thing for Oklahoma, though, right? We've got to win 9 or 10 games because our schedule is relatively favorable for us, right? And that's where things. I think depending on what we do in non-conference, not for us, our non-conference schedule is weak, so we better start 3-0. So that means if we're winning 9 games, that means we're losing 3 conference games. That'll probably get us kicked out of the championship. So we've got to definitely show out. But I don't want to talk about that. So we can talk about season projections as we get closer. But I think the biggest thing with the SEC that's going to be fascinating is what is the scheduling dynamic? Because they've come out and said that they're not going to do pods or divisions, which honestly, I think that would be the best way to do it.
The pods?
I do. Because think of it this way. If you do pods, if you do 4 pods of 4, you do a 3 and 6. You do 3, you've got your 3 constant opponents, right? And then you've got 6 rotating opponents. So what you do is every year you play 2 from each of the other pods. And then every other year you rotate home and away, right? So for example, if Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, and Arkansas were in a pod, right? Every year, Oklahoma plays Arkansas, Texas, and Texas A&M every year, right? And then every other year, or then we also play 2 from each of the other pods, right? So say LSU and Alabama are in another pod, Florida and Georgia are in another pod, and then Missouri and Tennessee are in another pod, right? One year we may play them. The next year we play the other 6 teams that were not included. And then the third year we play those first 6 teams again, but the home and away is flipped. So if we played Tennessee at home in Norman that first year, in the third year we play at Neyland. So that every 4-year cycle, not only do we play every team in the SEC twice, we also get to travel everywhere at least once.
Okay.
That just makes too much sense. I get because the SEC has already said, hey, we're not going to do that. And from what it sounds like is they're choosing from between the 1-7 model that they're doing now. You know, like they've got the 1 constant opponent and then the 7 that rotate.
Yeah.
And a 3-6 model, which is essentially the same as the pods, just instead of having quote unquote pods where the 4 teams play each other the same year, it's just teams will have 3 fixed opponents each year. And then the other 6 will rotate across the SEC. I wish it was structured like the pods because that would just be really, really nice. And that way you know who you're playing every year. And you'll know if you get to, if you know, hey, if you're like, hey, I know we're going to have an away game at Neyland in 3 years, I can go plan for that already.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Here's my question for you, though. If you could choose your three, and I'll be realistic here, okay? If you could choose your three permanent opponents for Arkansas, who would they be? So these teams you play every year, who would you choose?
Are we talking? Does it have to be based off of where we're at geographically?
It
Because
does not.
geographically,
But it does not have to be based geography, but keep rivalries in mind.
oh, rivalries in mind. I think from a rivalry standpoint, for
Well, like for
us,
you, right? Like Arkansas A&M is probably what is that your biggest rivalry game, or what else would you say?
historically speaking, yeah, because that's the rivalry we've had the longest. But since we've been in the SEC, maybe Ole Miss, and they've been trying to push that Missouri one for years. But historically speaking, with the two coming in, it's Texas and A&M, and then Oklahoma would have to be put in that same pod because like Oklahoma and Texas are going to be playing y'all going to be playing each other every year because that's just how it has to
Right.
be.
And well, here's the thing is for me, my ideal three for Oklahoma would be Texas. Obviously, and that's a given at this point, right?
Yeah, it has to be. Like
I
I'd almost
I
want
would
to.
also put Arkansas in that three because of the history on it. But my third is interesting, right? Because I could put Texas A&M and make it the old Big 12 thing. I could pick Missouri, bring back the old Big 12 thing. But reality is I would want somebody like on the east side of the SEC because I would want exposure to that recruiting area. So I want like a Florida.
So like Florida?
I would want like a Florida. I don't know if I'd want a Georgia. Nobody wants a Georgia. But like
not right now.
But like Florida, I think the Gators would be ideal, honestly, because traveling to Gainesville every other year sounds like a lot of fun to me. But
I'm just gonna say this, just based off of the next several years when y'all first join, it's just gonna be so much fun to see the new teams that like Texas going to Texas goes to Alabama anyway.
Anything that's new is always a lot of fun, and so but here's the thing, right? We're going to be changing from an away game in October at Ames to an away game in Oxford. Like, come on. Like, because let's be honest, Oxford's probably the Ames of the SEC. But regardless, regardless, we know the experience that Oxford has, right? And here's the thing: it's like we're not going to be traveling to Baylor in September. We'll be going to Knoxville in September, like
or Jordan Hare, or
exactly
or, the Swamp, or Bryant Denny, or
do not send me to LSU in September. I will punch somebody. I've done Tiger Stadium in September before, and it was miserable. It was. I went down there 2019, I believe, for my brother's birthday. So that was actually the first weekend in October. But it was 110, bald sun, and 90% humidity. I was miserable. Never again. It was interesting because I went down there, I want to say 2021, last year.
Yeah.
And it was like a week or two later in October. For LSU Auburn when Bo Nix went Superman and Auburn beat LSU in Tiger Stadium, which they hadn't done in years, which was awesome, by the way. But it was like 80.
Was that a night game?
It was a night game.
The night game. I've never been to LSU games, but I heard the night games that I've heard of.
The first time I went was an 11 a.m. game, miserable. But the second time I went was Auburn at night, and it was electric. Plus, it had like rain that day, so it was like cool at night. and it was phenomenal. Plus LSU lost, which was a lot of fun to see people complain about.
But going back to the part thing, I feel like Arkansas is going to be put with Missouri because they're just trying to make that a thing.
You think so?
Unless they do it from a standpoint where like the rivalry thing doesn't matter, because like when back in the day, and they still do it now, like they always have, like the way it is now, they have, we play every team from the East, or not every team, but it's a revolving door except for one. There's always one team in the East, or vice versa, that we have to play every year. So if that's the case where Missouri is our constant opponent, then they wouldn't do that. But if that's not the case, then Missouri.
Well, so let me divide this into two questions for you. Let me divide this into two questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Consider rivalries, but tell me what your preferred 3 would be, and what you think the SEC would do.
My preferred 3. So my preferred 3 would probably be my preferred 3 would be Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State and South Carolina, but I can't do that. So my
Damn, I was gonna do the same thing. I was like, give me Texas, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State or South Carolina.
Exactly. But I guess that is the preferred 3. But
no, like
SEC would.
I say, if I'm being completely honest, I want give me Texas, because that's a given regardless.
It's gonna happen. Like y'all are bound for the rest of time. Like it's just.
If I could choose, I would do Texas, Arkansas, and I would probably do Tennessee. Because I just think going to Knoxville is incredibly fun.
And we're easy to beat. Is that what it is?
No. But there's just too much history between the two schools for it to not make sense. But let me be honest with you. If I had to rank SEC schools as they stand right now, Arkansas is struggling to push the top half of the conference.
Especially, the new one with the 2 new teams coming in.
Because think of it, out of 16 teams, so if you include Oklahoma and Texas, where would you rank Arkansas out of 16? Ahead of Vanderbilt.
For sure. Yeah, ahead of Vanderbilt, ahead of South Carolina.
Really? Because they had more wins than you guys this year. They went 8-5, 9-4.
Let me think. I think they're ahead of Mississippi State.
Okay, so Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, they're obviously rebuilding. Rest in peace, Mike Leach.
Yeah, for sure.
Missouri.
I don't know.
You wouldn't put them ahead of Missouri.
We lost to them.
Okay, fair. Auburn right now.
Auburn last year for sure.
But
Auburn last year for sure.
Auburn of the last couple of years, I would put you ahead of, but over the course of the last decade or so, probably not.
No, not even close. Florida, I think we're better than Florida.
So let's do this based off of this past season's results, since that's the most recent run of information we have. Where would you put yourself? Ahead of Vanderbilt, ahead of Mississippi State, ahead of Florida,
ahead of Auburn.
Ahead of Auburn. Would you put yourself ahead of Oklahoma based off of this year's results?
I think it's close. I think you could. I think both are interchangeable right now.
Well, because Arkansas was what, 7-6? We were 6-7.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
It's interchangeable.
Because if you told me you think as of results from last season, Arkansas is in a better place than Oklahoma, I would allow it. I'd give it to you.
Because I think
Now, the one argument against that is Arkansas is replacing an OC and a DC. Meanwhile, Oklahoma is keeping their staff and had a great recruiting and transfer class. So it's like results-wise, Arkansas had a better season last year, but I think continuity-wise, Oklahoma is setting themselves up better for next year.
Well, this year for Arkansas is very crucial. This is the first time that Pittman's had to make actual decisions, and this is also one of the first times where the honeymoon stage for Sam Pittman has kind of ended, and people are like, okay, now you show us what you're capable of doing. And a lot of players did leave the program, but one thing I've noticed is that the majority of them have left for lesser schools. It's not. I mean, there's a couple of them that have made either lap moves or have moved up, but it's been few and far between. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see.
I think it was necessary for Sam Pittman to move on from Barry Odom and Kendall Briles, but
exactly.
Kendall Briles went to TCU. The team was in the playoff this year, so
they went above their heads.
One thing is, I think credibility wise, the school is lesser, but I think recent results they're higher, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
They're not going to be nearly as good this coming year, though.
No, they're not.
And so for you'd put Arkansas at like 11 or 12 out of 16 right now. Is that right? Maybe 10.
Yeah.
Because they're below Alabama. They're below Georgia.
Yes.
They're below Tennessee.
Below Kentucky.
Below Ole Miss.
What did we do against Ole Miss? I don't even remember what Ole Miss did last year. Did they beat us? No, we beat them. We beat the heck out of Ole Miss.
That's going to be an interesting team this year with Spencer Sanders, Jackson Dart, and.
But the thing with that is that it's always a question with Ole Miss if Lane Kiffin is invested in his team, because at times it feels like he's just like, I don't care, and I think he generally did not care when he played Arkansas. So depending on what type of coach you get, it's not even the players, depending on what type of coach you get, I think they can be better, but if he's just not invested, then he's just not going to look good. But given on how we played against them, we were better than Ole Miss.
So so that'll move you up to 10-11 out of 16. So we did Bama,
and not better than Tennessee.
Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU.
No. They're not based off of the way they ended the year. No, not better than Tennessee. I think Tennessee might be either one or two above us, but they were better than us.
Because I mean, based on results, right? It's like Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama.
Oh yeah,
and then LSU's like a rung down, and then everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So you're putting Arkansas below Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU. Who am I missing? South Carolina? Yes or no?
They were slightly better than us.
Yeah. Plus they have Spencer Rattler coming back this year.
Texas A&M is so interesting to me because
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because they were 5-7 this year.
But
they've just got so much talent that.
Well, the thing is that we gave them that game, but at the same time,
it's so hard to believe they're going to be bad again this year.
Well, I think the thing that was their biggest problem they fixed. As much as I don't like him, especially at now, but Bobby Petrino, I think, will elevate the heck out of that offense.
Really? Okay.
Like that, I think that was one of the biggest problems is that they just didn't run a great offense. I think, and now that Bobby Petrino is there, because I saw him coach us, the best offense I've ever seen probably the best offense I've ever seen in Arkansas was when Bobby Petrino was our coach. So, that might be a bold statement, but I just, it's either going to elevate him or Bobby Petrino is going to show his skin again. That he's a reptile.
Okay, so then above A&M for now, so that you're still in that 10-ish range.
Yeah.
And then the question becomes Oklahoma and Texas.
Texas.
Well, did you say above or below Missouri?
Below, because they beat us. Like it's because I have a tough time putting teams up that beat us above us.
That was 2 years ago, not this past year.
They beat us.
Wait, what?
Missouri beat us this year.
I thought you said Texas.
Oh, Texas. I thought we were still on Missouri. Texas.
No, do Missouri.
Okay, Missouri. I have a tough time putting them below us because of just the fact that they beat us. It's not. I'll put them above us. And then you said Texas?
Yeah, Texas and Oklahoma.
Texas was better than us this year.
Okay.
I think there were times that they played down to their opponent, but I think given the way that we were trending, I think they would have probably beaten us. And Oklahoma, we talked about this, a few minutes ago. I think it's interchangeable, but I think that we were better than Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Maybe it depends on what part of the year. If it was that
stretch in a bowl game together, let's see what happened.
Probably would have done the same thing that we did against Kansas.
Oh yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. So realistically, you're putting yourselves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're putting yourselves at like 9.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's fair. Because if I had to do it for Oklahoma, based on last season's results, we're better than A&M. We're better than Auburn. I'm gonna give myself the benefit of the doubt against Arkansas because I can.
Like I said, it's interchangeable.
Right. We're obviously better than Vanderbilt. I cannot bring myself to say we're worse than Missouri. I hate Eli Drinkwitz. He's such a loser.
Well, we lost to them, so I can't say that.
We'd be better than Florida, primarily because they had the same record as us this year, but also there's just no confidence in Gainesville right now, like 0. So that
I think that left with Mullins.
Probably. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd say we're better than Kentucky. They took a step back this year. And then, yeah. And then I think that's about it. I could argue South Carolina, but we're at this point in time, we're firmly behind Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU.
So what is that, 6 or 7?
Texas, unfortunately. So that's 5. Mississippi State is there. They're going to take a step back. I'd actually say Oklahoma could be above them moving forward, given what we know.
Unfortunately, they'll take a step back.
Correct. So that's 8. Ole Miss is I'd argue Ole Miss and South Carolina. So honestly, Oklahoma would be somewhere between 7 and 9. So
So like
really,
right in the range that we were at.
yeah, like if you had Arkansas at 9, I'd put Oklahoma at 8. Like it's really, really tight right now. Like we're
That's
not
what I'm
much
saying.
separated, but for me, I would put Oklahoma above Arkansas just in that ranking based on the fact that I think we have a better picture of what the future is going to look like right now, at least.
Well, the thing is that the recruiting stuff is almost based off of recent history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where Oklahoma, like Oklahoma hasn't experienced just not being great, and they've hardly ever experienced not being great. So, whenever you're Oklahoma, you're going to get the better recruits, and Arkansas hasn't. One. The last time we were anything decent was about 13 years ago, 12 years ago. So,
Well,
um,
here's the perspective. Here's his perspective, okay? Um, the highest recruiting class. Let me ask you this: rankings wise, what was the highest recruiting class Lincoln Riley ever had at Oklahoma?
I'd say probably
Throw out a place.
somewhere in the top 15.
It was 6.
I was
In
doing 15 just to be safe.
So it was 6th. That was 2019. That was like the Jaden Hazelwood, Spencer Rattler class.
Okay.
In Brent Venables' first year with a 6-7 team, do you know where we finished? Before you say that, Lincoln Riley's year, the 2019 when we ranked 6th, that was the highest ranking in the history of Oklahoma recruiting. Highest ranking. Well, as long as they had tracked recruiting.
Okay, because I was like, "Are you serious?"
As long as they had tracked recruiting. That was the highest ranking ever. In Brent Venables'
Okay.
first year with a 6-7 team, where did we finish? Or where did we finish?
We talked about this. Is it in the top 5?
4th. We finished 4th.
4th? Okay.
So when I say we have had a spectacular recruiting class, I mean it.
Yeah. No,
Like
I mean, you can't take.
even from our standards, it was exceptional. Like Oklahoma's always going to be somewhere between 5 and 15, it seems, or 5 and 20.
Yeah, well,
But for us to be
I
able
think
to
that's
take that step into the top 5, that top 5 is where you start pushing for national championship rosters. So you think about it, places like Bama and Georgia and Clemson, they're perennially in that
Ohio
top
State
5 every
and
year.
Ohio State.
Every
Yes.
year they're in the top 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that they're pushing for championships. Oklahoma needs to be pushing that top 5 if they want to get their roster to that next step where it's starting to say, hey, we're legitimately going to contend for this. We're not just saying, hey, we're going to try to win this. Hey, we're here now.
Yeah.
And we have to follow it up with 2, maybe 3 more years of this consistently if we're really going to say, hey, we're here, baby. But no, I think going to the SEC is gonna be a lot of fun.
Like I said, those matchups are going to be must watch. How you
Oh,
gonna
absolutely.
feel how you gonna feel whenever before the Red River, or actually you're probably going to be at the game, but if you're not, watching it on TV and hearing the CBS.
Speaking of Red
Da,
River,
da, da, da.
did you hear what? It's true. Did you hear what Texas? And then I'm gonna leave you with this. We'll talk. We'll discuss this and we'll get out of here because we're almost an hour now. What Texas Athletic Director Chris Del Conte requested from the SEC today or yesterday or whenever it was. He
What was it?
requested
Because
he requested that OU and Texas stays at the neutral site in the Cotton Bowl in the second
Mhm.
week or in October or whenever it is.
Mhm.
He also requested the game gets played at 2:30.
Hmm.
So
like I said, how you gonna feel whenever at 2:30 you hear the CBS,
I'll be ecstatic. Well, and so
you
for
won't have to
me,
wake up.
so for me, I don't really care when it's well. If I'm watching it on TV, I don't care when it's played because I can just get on my
Yeah,
couch and watch it. Right. For
yeah,
me, when I go to it, since I've gone to it 4 or 5 years in a row now,
yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah. Um, for me, there's just something about waking up super, super early, getting to the fair at 6, getting in line to park at 6:30 a.m. to get into the
Yeah.
fair at 7 to have beers and corn dogs in my hand before 8 a.m. There's just something about that, right? Because you can get everything you want done at the fair before the game. The game starts at 11 and you're done at 4, right? And you can go
Mhm.
home if you want to. However, there there's just something about, hey, that doesn't have to change when the game's at 2:30
Mhm.
and it's still over at 6
Yeah.
or 7 when there's still a little bit of sunlight left. You can still get to your car and get out.
Mhm.
Plus, you've had the rest of that morning to do what you want at the fair. So those that may want to stay around after, you don't have to.
Mhm. Yeah.
I just think 2:30 makes way more sense because I mean I see it all the time. People traveling from Oklahoma or Austin that'll leave at 2 or 3 a.m. to get there to the fair by 6 or 7 in the morning, and I'm just like, it'd be so much better if you play at 2:30 so they could leave at like 8 in the morning or whenever, right? And still get there
Mhm.
by noon, and you still got plenty of time.
Yeah.
I just think it makes way too much sense not to have it at 2:30 or to have it at 2:30.
I mean, besides all of what you just said, I mean, 2:30 on CBS just makes way more like. I feel like if it was 12 o'clock on CBS, that'd be disrespectful.
Well, and what's nice is it doesn't have to uh, impact any of the other rivalry games because
Mhm.
what other rivalry games are played the second weekend in October? I know the last 2 years, Alabama A&M have been played that weekend.
But that's not a traditional rivalry though.
Right.
When you talk
That's what
about
I'm saying.
Auburn, you talk about the Iron Bowl, you talk about the world's largest cocktail party. I guess the Southwest Classic. But like, there's nothing that really matches like that. That game does not match the
That
big
game would be
the.
the hot ticket that weekend, just
Oh, for sure.
guaranteed. Um, yeah. So that would really excite me to see a 2:30 game. I just hope it's not hot. This year was hot.
Huh?
Actually, this year wasn't as hot as last year. 2021 was miserable. It was like 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, I bet it was a lot more fun watching them though last year than it was this year.
I say I think 2021 it was me, Aiden, and the other guy, Julia's little brother,
David.
David. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you were at home watching Arkansas Ole Miss, that shootout game that was like 43-42 or something like that.
I was actually working, and they had
Ah,
the one of the screens. There was a computer at work that had the game, the OU game going, and I had my phone watching the or the Arkansas Ole Miss game. And then when I got home, those two games were still going on. I think I watched the Red River ended before mine, so I watched the ending of that one, and then I watched the ending of mine, which actually, even though we lost that game, didn't irritate me as much as it should have.
fascinating. But yeah, I think we've about covered it. Yeah, we're at about an hour.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to chat through before we get out of here?
Actually, real quick. Going back to the NFL, what do you think about Eric Bieniemy being a offensive coordinator for the Commanders?
I love Eric Bieniemy, but at this point, this is a step down. You're one of the best offensive coordinators on one of the best teams in the league, and you're taking a lateral position move to a worse team.
Not only a worse team, but like a worse organization.
Right. And so for me, I've been a big proponent saying that Eric Bieniemy should get a head coach job. And because every year for the last 3 or 4 years, he's been one of those names that's been constantly thrown out there. And for him to take a new job at a worse organization is really disheartening to see, because he deserves a better job, and he took in my opinion, he took a worse job. Now I don't know what his I don't know what his reasoning behind it was. More pay, different challenge, whatever, right? But I think it's a step down.
I mean, we'll see what the outcome is by that move. We'll see if it benefits Washington or if it hurts Washington or possibly hurts Bieniemy. Yep, they need to figure out some other things.
Sam Howell's the truth.
They need to figure out. They need to get rid of their owner.
You're right with Sam Howell.
But let's see. What else is going on? MLBs are about to start. Yeah.
The Rangers are going to be better this year, I hope. Fingers crossed. Maybe.
I feel like it relies on how good the rotation is.
First week of spring training, Jacob deGrom's already hurt. Sick.
If that's the case, then we're probably going to be really fighting for a wild card spot.
Are we going to get a Corey Kluber hurts himself in the first inning as a Ranger and never pitches again?
Like I fear that. Like I think like 2K. Like if you get a healthy DeGrom, I think they can easily make playoffs. I think with the rest of the rotation as it is, hopefully Perez has a season season similar to last year, but if he's hurt and the rotation is struggling, we're probably not even making playoffs again.
I've been consistent in my process that the Rangers were really, really bad 2020, 2021. Last year, they improved by 10, 12 games record-wise. This year, I was telling him I want to see them compete for a wild card spot. If they get in, awesome. If not, I want to see us be like a couple games out.
Yeah.
That way, next year we're solidly in the wild card race, maybe pushing for the West win. And the year after that, we're competing with the Astros to win the West. And one of the better teams in the AL.
Yeah, like I said, I think the chances of you going into the wild card or whatever hinges on how good that rotation is.
Absolutely.
And how healthy.
Because that's the biggest question.
Healthy that rotation is.
Because that's the biggest question is Jacob deGrom, best pitcher in baseball, but he's aging. Nathan Eovaldi
and hurt.
When he's good, he's good. Also aging, can be hurt. Martin Perez, can he replicate what he did last year? Dane Dunning, can he be better than he was last year? Can John Gray?
And then I think and I think the other one is you have a bunch of potential in the farm, but can that potential, can it join you in August and September, or are they going to take a step back like Cole Winn did last year?
Yeah, to be determined.
So
that's why I'm not.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions to be answered. With a lot of questions to be answered, but baseball season is around the corner. The draft is in what, like
it's usually in April.
2 months. Yeah, late April. So it's in 2 months. And basketball season is about to get back underway. The NBA is about to go into playoff mode, and then the NCAA basketball is about to hit its
I'll tell you what.
The conference tournament followed by the NCAA tournament, which leads to the second greatest month of the entire year.
March?
Yes.
Outside of what, December?
No, October.
You're talking about sports months, okay.
Yeah, sports months.
So, I don't want to touch on this, but I'm going to leave you with this because we're going to argue about it soon. Was the Kyrie trade a mistake? Because what we saw was when he was running the team without Luka, we won 2 games.
Mhm.
Pretty well. Since we have not won a game since him and Luka are playing together. Chemistry's messed up. But we're not going to argue that today. We will, coming soon, we will do our March Madness prediction. So we're going to, once we get our good buddy Aiden back, we know the brackets, we're going to go through the entire bracket together and do that. But until then, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We will be back next week, hopefully at full strength. And we'll see you when we see you.
Goodbye.
Deuces.